Hey friends, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'd like to give you my latest setup regarding the new Claude Opus model and talk a little bit about this new orchestration mode, which exists now for Claude as well. So as you can see here, there's a project which I'm currently working on, and the idea is that I create some kind of MVP for a chatbot application, which is mimicking real world, meaning I want to have some guardrails regarding the prompting. I want to have an evaluator model, which evaluates the responses of the model and helps to train to update my model later on, and so on. So all these kinds of features are implemented here as well. And my original way of doing this is always that I write a rather loose English description of what I want to do. And you can see this here. This is my instruction file. It just tells that here we want to build an MVP, an AI chatbot, and so on and so on, with the Pydantic AI framework, and then with a few tools available in that, and then also with some guardrails and other kinds of things like XML fencing and other kinds of probably best practices which are implemented in practice. So far, so good. But you can see, of course, this is just English text, so that's nothing really what you would consider as a PRD. So then, of course, I need to have my product sub-agent, so the product manager, which is basically then using this file and then asks me clarifying questions. That's the idea, right? And then he will transfer this into a real PRD spec file, so to speak. And that's basically what happens there. And this is stored here. Then in this project brief, that's the idea, right? Where we have here a problem statement, solution approach, then target users, success criteria, and so on. So really a deep dive and specific, much better explanation of what I actually want to build, right? Based on my feedback and my original intent. So far, so good. Now, of course, with this new Opus model, we should leverage its strength. And that's why in my sub-agents, which you can see here, of course, in my product manager agent here, I specified now the model. So instead of using the Sonnet model, I now changed this to Opus because I want here for the product manager to define really clear specs, really, so that the implementers later on know exactly, okay, that's basically what we want to build, right? So here, I think it makes sense to leverage the Opus model, even though you burn more tokens and it's more expensive. So, but here I think that makes sense. And I also did this for this project because I wanted to try it out for my technical architect, right? Because I have a product manager who is actually defining the PRD. And then based on that, I need a technical architect which specifies then how do we want to implement this regarding the front end, the back end, and so on. In this case, for this example, for instance, I have a fast API backend and I have a Next, oh no, sorry, not Next.js, I had a React and Vite front end in this case. So, but here also you can see that I still specify Opus in this case here for the model, and this is my technical architect who specifies, as I said, the tech stack. So far, so good. But then for the implementation, on the other hand, I think it's not required actually to use the Opus model. Instead, I'm using still the Sonnet model because here I just need someone who is really, well, able to write good and clean code based on the instructions. And that's why for my, in this case, for my feature implementer agents, you know, I already mentioned this in the past. I spawn always for one feature implementer agent. He is then doing the feature itself. You can also, if you want, well, run them in parallel. So you spawn multiple feature implementer agents. You first have to update your Claude.md file for that probably, and then you can run them in parallel as well. But if you do this, you need to make sure that they are working on at least two different features where there's no conflict, right? So that makes, you know, handling a complete orchestration where every thing is running in parallel with several agents much more difficult because you can simply, really easy run into kind of problems regarding this. So, but here, as I said, I do it once at a time in this case, but I also tried it, do it in parallel, also with Codex, by the way, and it also worked. But as I said, you need to be a little bit careful here. So again, here you use the Sonnet model simply because this saves a lot of, well, tokens, and also you do not run immediately into a limit regarding Claude, because for me, for instance, I only have the $20 subscription. That means I constantly hit the limit here. So that's why I want to keep this as short as possible, and that's also why it's so crucial and important to really keep the context really, really small, right? So that's why, again, I already mentioned this in prior videos, but I think it really makes sense to have the Claude.md file in your global settings as short as possible. So if you have certain kinds of coding standards, for instance, and so on, don't put it there. Instead, put this into a skill. So let Claude, or in this case then, for instance, the feature implementer agent or the technical architect agent, simply read then the skill where exactly your coding standards are defined, right? Because this is much better instead of the global agent, so to speak, read this every time for all conversations because it's in your Claude.md file. It doesn't make any sense. And the same is true for other kinds of things, right? So keep your Claude.md file as short as possible. Only put in the things which are really important for all your projects. And as I said, that does not mean your tech stack or coding stack necessarily. Even this you can source out to skills. So there you need to define or decide for yourself what exactly you want to put there. But as I said, I keep my Claude.md file really, really short. It's definitely less than 100 lines of text, this file, right? You can keep it even shorter, maybe 50 lines, something like that. So then you have your agents, your sub-agents, you can define them here, and then you put everything else in the skills. For instance, also the playwright, as I said, in the past I used the MCP server, but right now I don't use actually any MCP servers at all anymore, simply because they're polluting the context. Instead, put everything you want into skills, and then let Claude actually use those skills in the right moment. As you can see here, my last command here was that I wanted Claude to run a full end-to-end test for this application, and it did it, and it basically did this using the playwright skill. So also I saved that some context tokens in there as well. So I still think that this actually structure is the best, at least for me. I don't really, I'm a big fan of this new orchestrator agent setup which exists, simply because yes, then each agent can talk to each agent, that's true, but I think it burns tokens like crazy. And well, if token burning it doesn't matter to you, then you could try it out, but for me it matters actually, and I think it makes more sense to be as efficient as possible as well, and this means spending as less tokens as possible. So that's why I said that here. And yeah, that's basically it. And what it did, it was just using or creating a Docker Compose here with the front end, the back end, and Olama running in for the model itself, and then it created an application which should look similar to OpenAI. So that was the original intent. And we also do some logging using Logfire, so we can see exactly what the AI model is actually doing when the user asks a question, that as well. And let me show you the application so you can see what it looks like. So this is basically the login screen here. You can see here there's a username and password, and then I can sign in. I mean, because it's an MVP, I just said that I want to have these credentials here directly so visible. So I can sign in. And yes, this is a simple password, that is true. But then you can see here, this is the chat application. And I think actually, based on this, it looks kind of similar to OpenAI, to ChatGPT. Maybe to an older version, that could be the case. Here, I would actually argue what you could do and should do, basically, if you have a clear image in mind, what you want to build. Then I would suggest that you take a screenshot, if you have, from this, and also provide it to Claude. Because Claude is very good, basically all models, Gemini or also Codex, they're all very good in interpreting an image. So if you have an image, what the application should look like, you can should actually put this into the directory as well, and you get then a better clone of that. So that's basically the application, and now I can type a message, for instance here, what is Andromeda in space, and then so space, answer in one sentence. Right? I could also, speak it, but now I typed it, and then I can send this, and I just wait, and hopefully I get an answer quite quickly. Yes, I got it here, and that's basically the application here as well. And this is also logged, as I said. If I go here to Logfire, there I can see that here a notification attempt and so on, and then the chat history and everything here is logged, as same as my rate limit, which I hit in an earlier test of this application as well. So this is very good, because in practice also of course you want to log how users are interacting with your application. And here, if you use Pydantic AI framework, I would highly recommend Logfire, because this is really easy to implement, at least for the chatbot, and it really gives you a really detailed overview of what happens, and you can also run SQL queries on that later on if you want as well. And it's for free, by the way, just to mention that. So that's basically the application here. You can see it works, and this is also here this option to evaluate. In a real application, of course, the user should not evaluate that, but the admins later on. But in this case, as I said, it's an MVP, and I wanted to implement this as well. And if I go to evaluate response here, I just wait a little bit, and now I have a second AI model. In this case, I'm using Mistral, which would actually take a look at the answer of the model and the user query, and then based on that, give me actually a result, which is not working. As you can see here, request failed, status 400. So obviously Claude needs to fix something here. But of course, all we need to do is go back to Claude, right? Because he did the full end-to-end test, but I didn't tell him to actually do the evaluation as well. So obviously that he missed. So basically I just need to go here back and type in my next request. So, but what I actually wanted to drive home here is that it really makes sense to have a really efficient setup. At least that's my take on that. To have a really small Claude MD file to already save some tokens in the conversation. Then to use the Opus model, but only for specific sub-agents where you think Opus or the best model is really needed. I don't think it's really needed for the code implementation, rather for the planning up front. Because this is much more important and to decide the right software architecture as well. So for these things, I think it makes sense. And for the coding itself, not really. Here, I would at least argue you could use a cheaper model. You could also use another model, of course, as well. There's also Haiku, for instance, or also Chinese competitors who might have, well, cheaper inference costs or other kinds of options. And one last trick at the end I'd like to also give you here or drive home is if you have a ChatGPT subscription, you also have access to Codex, which is, in my point of view, a very good option because it provides you more, let's say, tokens until it hits a limit. And especially the new Codex 5.3 model is very, very good. So what you could do, and I have also done that in the past, is if, for instance, I code with Claude, right, and then I hit a limit, and then it tells me, okay, you need to wait a few hours until you can continue. I just switch the model and say, hey, okay, now I start Codex, and say, hey, Codex, that's our current status. Please go through the current setup and everything we've built so far, and then continue working on it, right? And you can also do that. And by the way, Codex now also supports sub-agents. So I can show this quickly to you if we go in here and just type in Codex here. Just wait a second. And then if you take a look at the agent option here, you can see that they're also now available here. So you could actually now also give Codex in its agents.md file instruction to use sub-agents, right? And all you need to do in order to actually enable them, I think it's under experimental. If you go there and type this, you see that there's an option to enable sub-agents. So you can ask Codex to spawn multiple agents, parallelize the work, and so on. So hopefully you can see that you can also now achieve a lot. You don't need the Claude model itself. You can also do it with Codex or other kinds of models as well. So that's it for this video. It was really long, but I talked a lot, but hopefully it was interesting to you and you learned something new. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you have a different setup or you think, well, a different setup is better, then please enlighten me, enlighten us, tell us about that. And as always, thanks for watching and hopefully see you in the next video. Until then, best guys.